The finest collection ever assembled was seized and sold by the French government as war reparations after World War I. It was assembled by this man who has obviously seen things that he cannot unsee, and his name is Philippe Von Ferrary. He spent an enormous amount of money of his family's fortune on buying stamps long before it was considered to be a serious collectible in the 1870s through the 1890s. And by the time of his death, it's believed that Ferrary owned as many as 75% of all the world rarities that are now sought by collectors at every major auction house and every major sale that has been held since his collection was distributed. Included in items from the Ferrari collection is the most expensive stamp ever sold, the 1 cent black on magenta British Guiana. It also includes the most expensive philatelic item ever sold, which is this ball cover, and you can't find the top-end collection of any country of the world that doesn't contain ex-Ferrari items. He spent so much on stamps that his relatives actually brought lawsuits against him in the French courts in order to constrain his spending and declare him completely incompetent. As part of the agreement, in order to settle these lawsuits, he actually got his law degree from a school in Brussels. He was a brilliant man who was fluent in 5 languages and conversational in 3 others, but he was also deeply troubled because he had found out in his early 20s that he was actually the illegitimate son of an Austrian soldier. And between the resentment of that discovery and his experiences with the French courts, he became completely disenfranchised with the entire country of France. And in the build-up to World War I, he fled the capital of Paris when the Germans were just 30 miles outside of the city. Now, when he fled to Austria, he only took a couple of his albums with him, and when the conflict ended, he tried to re-enter Paris, but he was told by the authorities that because of his pro-Austrian and pro-German tendencies, he was no longer welcome in the country of France. And when he died in exile in 1917 in Austria, he willed his entire collection that was still in France to the government of Germany. Because that collection then became German government property, it allowed France to seize the entire collection as war reparations for the conflict during World War I. The French government sold the Ferrari collection in 14 sales from 1921 through 1925. There were over 8,000 individual lots and untold numbers of individual stamps. The sales generated over $1.4 million in bids, which would be roughly $25 million today, but because the auctions were so poorly run by the French government, it's estimated that they cost themselves at least half of the value of that collection, even in the early 1920s. To this day, the Ferrari collection is still considered far and away to be the finest worldwide stamp collection that has ever been assembled, and it's also believed that his spending on his stamp collection is what vaulted stamps from being just an idle pastime into a very serious hobby. Everybody that's a collector today owes him a debt of gratitude, no matter what it is that he can't unsee.